the officials at the front to get the countdown completed. The 5-second board will be shown, then the Union Jack will be raised when the flag falls. We go racing. Slow start by Sinclair from the middle of the front row. Lots of tire smoke from John Spears, who leaves 11s on the line, and the best go of all was from Mike Whittaker, who will grab the advantage, but round the outside, great recovery by John Spears in the McLaren. He goes ahead of the Lola as they round Matchwick Corner for the first time, so despite lots of tire smoke, right round the outside, a really brave move to put John Spears into the lead.
Yeah, absolutely stunning start from John Spears, just chopped the front nose, didn't he, of Whittaker on the way into Matchwick. Sinclair getting left a little bit behind. Now John Spears going defensive into the first part of St Mary's. He'll be able to cover the left-hand inside line into the second part now. That secures his lead, but he's got to do the same. This is the obvious overtaking point, isn't it? This is the run down into Lavin. Is he going to go defensive? No, he leaves the door a little bit open, but gets away with it.
It's James Cottingham fourth, heading the GT40 battle, as it were, as there to go to the outside line. Ed Thurston, that car had a spin. Oh, and there's a spin from the leader. It was a spinning qualifying for Thurston, but the leader spins. John Spears off the road, so that absolutely gets the advantage now to Mike Whittaker. Cold tyres, bags of power, and then the GT40s run absolutely side by side. Gordon Shedden on the inside line, on the outside James Cottingham, and Flash goes through then, so Gordon Shedden picks up the place, diving into Woodcote, and he gets himself onto the back of Tony Sinclair's T70, the GT40 right into the tail of him virtually. Mike Whittaker getting away, but look at this great battle, second, third and fourth through the chicane.
Yeah, look out for Chris Goodwin behind. He had a very racy opening lap, came out on top. He's now got the job of chasing down James Cottingham, who is right in the slipstream of Shed's GT40. The pack just fanning out a little bit as they start the first full proper lap.
And John Spears then will be trying to get back into contention, but he's got a real fight on his hands as now Gordon Shedden right onto the tail of Tony Sinclair, going for second place. Does he line up to have a go out of Ford Water, heading up towards the first part of St Mary's, absolutely crawling all over the back of the Lola there, the GT40 with a slightly tighter line. Can Shedden dive up the inside into the right of St Mary's? A big slide from Sinclair that's going to put him off his stride. Shedden into the back of it, they do touch, and he's had a puncture. The Lola looks as though it may have just gone low on one side. It's off the road, certainly. But just have a look at the right rear corner. That didn't look right to me.
Well, the right rear wheel also looks like it's leaning outward at the top. So perhaps some kind of suspension failure there causing that. I don't think contact was the cause. I think that was the result, and that impeded the car's pace through the left-hander and out of it at St Mary's, as James Cottingham just has a little look up the inside, letting Gordon Shedden ahead know that he is there ready to take advantage of any mistake.
Battle lower down as well, Ed Thurston on the outside. This was lap one. That was John Spears, the then leader, rotating, trying to get back into the race. Now this, did something break to cause the car to go sideways there? Either a tyre went down or something broke. I still think the tyre looks low.
Well, you might be right. Yeah, it could have been an instant puncture, but whatever it is, happened just in that direction change on the way out of the first part of St Mary's. Very lucky for that not to have happened 50 metres earlier, where the speed would have been much higher and he'd have struggled to keep the car on the black bit.
And you can see the little bit of damage picked up on the front of the GT40. And before you say, oh, touring car drivers, there really wasn't anywhere that Gordon Shedden could go then.
Absolutely, not Gordon Shedden's fault at all, neither driver at fault at all. There was clearly some kind of failure, mechanical failure or a puncture that triggered that. Now we've got the resulting yellow flags, whilst Tony Sinclair's car is just off the driver's right, out of harm's way, but not so much so that it couldn't be collected by another car spinning through the grass. So yellow flags will remain in place for now.
Now John Spears did lead, remember, until here on the opening lap, Lavin corner. He is down in 17th place, trying to recover as Ed Thurston fends off Sean Lynn. This is for 6th place. Ed Thurston goes ahead, but then loses out to pure horsepower in a straight line, so the GT40 canters back ahead.
Well, very different ways to achieve a lap time around Goodwood, either with horsepower or with handling. Thurston very much with the latter in his favour. Sean Lynn with horsepower in his. They just navigate their way by Rainer Becker in the Porsche, who is going slowly through Woodcote. We need to keep an eye on him, see if he's nursing a problem.
So the race leader, Mike Whittaker, is 4.1 seconds to the good now. Gordon Shedden has done the fastest lap of the race, up into second position. So let's see what Sheds can do about him. James Cottingham is third, Chris Goodwin is fourth, Mick Fennell's Lotus fifth, sixth is Sean Lynn. There through is number 72, Richard Cook's GT40, that is currently in 9th place, and the recovering John Spears is in 11th. Now he's 25 seconds down on the leader, but he's carving his way back up through the order.
Well, he's going to have to find some pace because the leader is already in to the 23s, but meanwhile Gordon Shedden behind in the 22s, a 22.6, sorry, 22.7 on that last lap for Gordon Shedden in the GT40. I expect another second or so of pace to come from him.
And drama here in replay, coming down towards Woodcote Corner. That is Justin Mears, who goes off the road. The rear bodywork deforms against the barrier, but Justin Mears is okay, and that car is out of the race. But as he clambers clear, of course, that's going to be another yellow flag zone for the drivers to contend with. So we have a safety car deployed, a safety car, and that's great news for John Spears, because everybody will now bunch up, and that's going to bring him closer in real terms to the race leader.
Yeah, that's a sad turn of events for Mears. We saw it earlier on actually, David, didn't we? If you stick the nose to the inside on the run up to Whittaker Corner, you have to remember that the circuit is about to kink left as some of the drivers, unaware that the safety car has been deployed. Huge lock up there from Chris Goodwin.
And the safety car has not picked up the race leader. Now, there is provision under regulations to allow, of course, the cars that should not be behind to go by. So that green light that comes on should be the indication that you can pass, and that is exactly what is happening. That's the new rule that's been introduced, and it's done properly when drivers know what to do, and the lights suggest that you may go past. So that saves this age-old problem of having to wait forever to let cars go by. So you have the lights flashing, the leader is behind, and so Gordon Shedden, who was 4 seconds behind, is now about 4 inches behind the leader.
Well, this is where you really hope everybody has read the small print of the driver's briefing notes, because of course this year, this COVID year, we don't have a physical driver's briefing, a sort of classroom assembly as such. We don't have that. It's in written notes that are handed out when the drivers sign on which they do give clear instructions for how to conduct yourself under a safety car. And the key thing is that if you are waved by, if you're one of the tail enders and you're waved by, you have to carry on. Having been waved by the safety car, you have to gallop reasonably good speed to navigate your way around the whole lap and catch the back of the train, albeit safely. The other key thing, and this drives me mad if you happen to find yourself behind someone that hasn't read the rules, sometimes people think you have to go slowly and there's some kind of speed limit in place under a safety car, but actually the rule is quite different. You have to be within a maximum 5 car lengths from the car in front, and if the racing has evolved and spread the field out, somebody suddenly is just willingly going around under the safety car miles and miles behind the pack ahead and they're unwilling to catch up, you can't overtake because it's full yellow flag conditions.
No, it is a huge frustration, and I think we've had in, for example, GT World Challenge Europe on occasions, the race director saying people can overtake this slow car because it's spoiling the race, so I'll give you the opportunity to get past, and for those of you that know what you're doing, to catch up. So there was a back marker, I think it was Tim Bailey, wasn't it, number 2 with the Lotus 23B, and he now is the one playing catch up. There is John Spears though, he's into the top 10, and from being 22 seconds back, well, he may still not win the race, but he can certainly pick off a whole heap of places when we go racing.
So capable, isn't he, John Spears? Fantastic driver. He always ends up at the front and he's unafraid of these big, heavy, powerful cars. Although he struggled to get the power down, didn't he, on that opening lap from the lead out of Lavant. We didn't see it happen, we saw the aftermath, but I expect he just didn't quite have the tyre temperature he needed to deploy all of that horsepower and torque. Lost the back end, looped it around, no harm done. And a hell of a recovery, actually, to be back up to 10th already.
This safety car for him has come at exactly the right time, because life was going to get harder further through the top 10 with quicker cars to pass and indeed gaps having opened up. So it's a great shame for Justin Mears with his now damaged Lola T70 Spider, the car that AJ Foyt raced, the one that's caused this safety car, and it was used in the Paul Newman film Winning, so it's got a great pedigree, but now sadly it's got a big repair bill as well. But the tyre barrier doing its job, stopping the car, and Justin Mears we saw clambering free. Of course, the other man to watch on the restart will be Gordon Shedden, who is well versed to safety car restarts from his many days in touring car racing, whether it's as the leader or the chaser, so he's going to be a man to watch. And depending on how long the safety car is out for, we may of course end up with a slight extra time added on at the end. I think we can have up to 3 minutes or so for each 5 minutes of safety car usage.
Correct, a maximum of 2 of those allowed.
Yes. Because the danger is if it's only a short 20-minute race, you're not going to get, if it's a long safety car period, potentially 2 minute racing laps. So the BARC, the race on-track organisers have that provision in the rules. There is John Spears then, the man we were discussing, having started third on the grid. I mean, it was a really brave way to get the lead, round the outside of Madgwick, off the line. I mean, that took some courage.
It did, and it's interesting that he had the rear grip to do that, but he didn't have the rear grip when he needed it a little later around the lap coming out of Lavin. But no, that was he got a really strong start as well, didn't he?
As he took his bravery pills this morning, that's for sure. So there is John Spears going through with the McLaren F1B.
A lot of wing mirrors on that car, isn't there?
Car bought for the American market. Carl Haas imported it, ran it in the early Can-Am. Yes, he's not excused not to know where he is. Keith Arler's behind in the 4.7 litre Ford engine Goodwood T61. And this is where the incident zone is, so the safety car brings them down to the right-hander.
Now, of course, here we get a good view of that little jink in the straight, and you can see it's chicane-like shape, which means that the leading car of a duo that might be battling can maintain a straight line through that little S-shaped wiggle. Meanwhile, the car behind that thinks he's got a run has been slightly blinded by the car ahead because he's close in the slipstream on the gearbox of the car in front. He jinks to the right to pull out and put a move up the inside into the braking zone. Unfortunately, the circuit takes away that car's width of space, and you find yourself trying to brake on the grass, and you only need to have your front right connect with the grass to lose all stability because you're braking from such high speed. In this grid, top speeds of nearly 170 miles an hour we're seeing.
Another man to watch, you'll see him going through the shot number one, is Marco Werner, who is currently running the three-time Le Mans winner in 8th place, and he too I think could make some progress on the restart. Now, this safety car period, of course, the drivers don't know for how long it is going to be. They might get an idea when they go past the incident zone, but what should they be doing? There is Marco Werner. What should they be doing under the safety car? It's not just have a break, is it?
Well, it depends really on your tyre condition and how you feel. I mean, frankly, I'm normally quite grateful for the break. These are quite physical, these cars. But you'll see them weaving left and right, and that's mainly to generate front tyre temperature, because that's the one that bleeds away most quickly. It's also, the front end is the hardest to heat back up. So if you can just load it up with some weaving left and right, but it's very important that you do it with the front end of the car loaded, so you tend to sort of ride into the brake pedal as you turn to the right, and then ride into the throttle as you turn to the left. That'll load up the back end of the car, and then halfway around the lap you might switch so that you do the other side. But if you just weave left and right with no loading on the front or the rear, it doesn't really do it. And of course, particularly in this grid, there's so much power in these cars. You can simply drop it down into second or even first in a tighter corner, out of the chicane or out of Lavin, dump the clutch, light up the rear end. There's your rear tyre will be done in an instant.
That's true.
The front they need to work hardest at.
So they're going through is the Marshall Bailey driven Lola T70 Spider Chevrolet powered, the car that Alberto Maggioli raced in Europe, and then it went to New Zealand to have a career out there. It's amazing where people find these and are able to bring them back, and it's great to have such a lovely representation of the period of these cars here at Goodwood SpeedWeek. So another lap in the book. We're down to, I'm afraid, 6.5 minutes, but we should be able to go green hopefully at the end of this lap, and then of course the race officials will, fingers crossed, be able to add on a little bit of bonus time. So Mike Whittaker versus Gordon Shedden. John Spears, yes, the safety car has helped him because he's closed up, but then he wants as much racing time as he can on the other side of it. There, 117 is the T70 Spider, the Chevrolet powered car that Ian Simmons drives, but it was the one that Walt Hankson and Ronnie Buckingham raced in period. And then it had a very successful time racing, gosh, going back, what, probably 3 decades now, in the early days of the Supersports Cup and in GT races over here with Colin Parry-Williams, former rallycrosser, the man at the wheel of it.
Now keep an eye out for Chris Goodwin in his Lotus 23B on the restart, because this will have obviously closed the gap right up. Very experienced driver, Chris Goodwin, as well. He'll be lining himself up ready to take full advantage. That if he can just stay with the guys ahead, he'll have the lighter, more nimble handling car. He might just be able to pull a move around the outside of one of the first 2 corners whilst the others are squabbling over each other, perhaps going tight, going in on a defensive inside line, which will compromise their apex speed. And that is exactly what somebody like Chris Goodwin in the lighter, more dynamic car will be looking for.
So they're coming down towards the incident zone. Are we going to be able to go green this time? Yes, lighter outlook on the safety car, so it's going to be in this time. The pace quickens as the safety car lets the field accelerate to try and get everything back up to temperature, and also, of course, tries to get away so it can then dive into the pit lane safely rather than get tangled up with the race cars. So here we go, ready to go racing once more into the chicane, and we are set to go racing this time.
Well, all but the top three have been caught napping there. They should be much closer than they were. The top four now could be closer still, but Gordon Shedden nails it, hoping to get alongside Whittaker under the braking into turn one. He's not close enough. That will be perfect for Whittaker, because now he can stretch the legs as he comes out of Madgwick up towards Fordwater. There was Chris Goodwin keeping a watching brief, but he hasn't got the horsepower of the three cars ahead. James Cottingham, meanwhile, gets a good run out of Madgwick, lining himself up through Fordwater on Shedden.
And straight away, Chris Goodwin drops back as Cottingham has a go on Shedden. Now, where is John Spears in the background? Is he making any progress? Let's see. He has got Richard Cook behind him, so I think he has gained one place. Yep, he's up to ninth. Next target, Marco Werner there, with the white and pink crash helmet ahead of him as the three race leaders come over the brow into Lavant then. And Gordon Shedden is staying on the back of Mike Whittaker. So we've got just under 6 minutes of the race to go. Here they come down towards the Lavant Straight and Woodcote section, where the brute force of the Lola Chevrolet, the T70 Spider, should be able to extend the advantage a little, but Gordon Shedden is doing his absolute best. Wily Campaigner is the Scotsman, staying as close as he can. He can possibly break a little bit later in the GT40. Yes, he can, look, and he brings the gap right down, coming into the first apex of Woodcote. Now that short run up towards the chicane. James Cottingham staying there in third place, waiting to see what pans out in front. But now, as they make the run up towards the timing line, 5 minutes on the clock. Again, here in a straight line, the Lola just extends the gap a little.
And the lighter car proving a little more powerful as well, or a little quicker, should I say, down the straight. Now, this is perfect for James Cottingham. He will be hoping that Whittaker and Shedden get involved with one another, trip each other over, and he'll be watching, waiting, ready to pounce, looking for even half a car's width. Remember racing James many times in GT40s. He's not afraid to put two wheels on the grass to pull off a move, and very good at it he is too. Shedden lining himself up now, isn't he? Closer than we've seen.
I was going to say, if anybody knows how to overtake in the narrowest of gaps, it's a man from the British Touring Car Championship. 3 times the champion, Gordon Shedden, then right onto the back of Mike Whittaker. The gap over the line was half a second, so Mike Whittaker has certainly not got this in his pocket yet. Don't forget, Shedden has also done the fastest lap of the race. And here they come with the Lola T70, again able to now stretch its legs down towards Woodcote. James Cottingham has dropped back a few lengths on this lap, so that takes a little bit of the pressure off Gordon Shedden. He can concentrate purely on what's going on ahead. There's Tim Bailey's Lotus up the road as well, the Lotus 23B that's going to be lapped. Is that going to help Gordon Shedden? Let's see. Up the inside goes Mike Whittaker. Does Flash get by as well? Yep, he does. So through goes Shedden into the chicane, and again, the gap not down enough to allow Shedden a chance to think about challenging. Cottingham is third, but falling away, caught up behind the back marker.
That was a disaster for James Cottingham. Really got caught out there by the back marker, who got in the way through the chicane. Meanwhile, the front two managed to pull away. Now, these are both incredibly evenly matched. The pace at the front of the pack has got quicker. A 22.1 the last time from our race leader, Mike Whittaker. Gordon Shedden, though, very close, 22.2. So he's going to really need a mistake from Whittaker in order to get by, because at the moment the pace is too closely matched.
Change for 6th. John Spears looked through on the inside line, so he was 7th at the start of the lap. He's now 6th. He's about to become 5th as well, as he's really hit Nick Fennell. The Lotus 23B then is about to fall prey to the mighty McLaren. So down it comes towards St Mary's, and John Spears hustles on there to try to gain another place before the end. 3 more minutes on the clock. Mike Whittaker doing the fastest lap of the race last time, trying to stretch out that margin over Gordon Shedden.
Well, if John Spears keeps going like this, if he can get at least 2 more laps in before the flag, which I think they will, then he could be on for a podium, because he is the 3rd fastest car on track at the moment, and he's absolutely flying. He's certainly got a good half a second or so in hand over Cottingham's GT40, up in 3rd place at the moment. That will be the spot that he will be targeting.
So he's 5th at the moment there, John Spears. The next target, Chris Goodwin. And he's not going to be able to lunge at the inside of the chicane, but he might be able to saunter by now when all the horses are unleashed on the pit straight as they come up towards the timing line now to put, for them, 11 laps in the book. Yeah, easily done, just blast through. So there is John Spears then up now into 4th place. Chris Goodwin down to 5th. Fennell is 6th. Sean Lynn is 7th, so 3 places gained on that lap by John Spears, and he's 5.4 seconds behind James Cottingham. Now, the lead gap, 0.6 of a second, 2 minutes on the clock. Whittaker to Shedden, 0.6. Another hat tip to Gordon Shedden. The way that he is making that GT40 there, look, stay in touch with the Lola T70, very impressive.
Really is beautifully set up, that car. We were saying earlier in qualifying how poised Gordon Shedden's GT40 looks. Meanwhile, John Spears driving his McLaren beautifully. There's a little bit of vapour there coming out of those trumpets under braking.
And it's going to be the last lap this time around, isn't it? Because by the time they get to the line, there will be less than a lap time left in the race. So is John Spears going to be able to get onto terms with James Cottingham? I fear not. What about Gordon Shedden against Mike Whittaker for the race lead? Here they come, out of Woodcote down towards the chicane. So flick right, flick left. And Gordon Shedden, again, good through the corners, but where all the horsepower of that T70 counts, Mike Whittaker exploits it to the full, goes over the line with just over a minute of the race to go, and the advantage over a second.
Yeah, a lot faster, nearly a second faster for Mike Whittaker on that lap, a 1:21.2. That's the kind of pace we've come to expect of this grid. Gordon Shedden also going a lot quicker, a 1:21.8, but he doesn't have the legs on Whittaker.
So another fastest lap of the race by Mike Whittaker. Gordon Shedden, I fear, is going to have to settle for second place now. Cottingham to Spears was 4.3 seconds, but that's a big ask with a lap to go for John Spears to play catch-up. Lovely shot there of the T70 in the distance on the back part of the circuit, out of Ford Water into St Mary's, and again looking proper period with John Surtees and Graham Hill's names on the side of the Team Surtees T70 Chevrolet. Then the Lola T70 Spider in the hands of Mike Whittaker accelerates out of Lavant Corner. The Yorkshireman set, it seems, for Whitsun Trophy honours. Gordon Shedden chasing for all he is worth, but Whittaker on this lap going quicker again in the first sector just to try and pull out the margin. There in the background is John Spears. He's not going to catch Cottingham, but not for the want of trying. For the last time, down to Woodcote they come. Heading to the braking zone, it is going to be a Whitsun Trophy win for Mike Whittaker, but Gordon Shedden has driven the wheels off that GT40 behind the car owned by Philip Walker. Up to the checkered flag, then the drone picks up Mike Whittaker, who's about to take the checkered flag. The Whitsun Trophy won by Mike Whittaker. Gordon Shedden takes second, and for third place it will be James Cottingham. Fourth goes the way of John Spears, and then it's a long wait before we get Chris Goodwin through for fifth. And John Spears did the best lap of anybody in the race on the last lap, so that was the commitment, Sam. He was pushing right to the end as Goodwin just fends off Fennell, 5th and 6th.
An absolutely stunning lap time from John Spears, a 1:20.2, goes to show what he could have achieved with just 1 or 2 more laps.
Kicking himself, no doubt, for the spin. That's Greg Thornton hustling the McKee Chevrolet up towards the line, chased by Keith Arlers, and that was a change on that lap. So Greg Thornton, I think he's going to come over the line to be the last man through in the top 10. Yes, gets ahead of Keith Arlers just on that last lap. But Mike Whittaker, a very good job indeed, controlling the pace and coming through to score race honours. So Mike Whittaker victorious.